G'day OPL fans, welcome back to Headspace Round. We're about to see set 2 of today's play as Legacy are going to take to Summoner's Rift against the Direwolves, of course brought to you by Hungry Jacks. Legacy and Direwolves brought to you by Samsung and LG as well.
Yeah.
Juves coined it the television wars.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. I back it.
Big fan of that.
Yeah.
That's actually real
100%.
funny. Spawn, Ejim,
How's it
joining
going?
me at the desk as always. Intense series last time. I
Yeah.
feel like this one won't let up either. This is going to be a pretty back and forth.
Yeah, I feel like it's once again one of those things where it was a 2-0, but it was a pretty bloody 2-0. AV kind of putting the stops to order, but just was not enough in the end.
Yeah, and I feel like that's how those games go. If a team is going to play up and you kind of challenge it, as we saw Sin play against Order, as we saw Avant play against Order, you either win some of the team fights and it goes for a long time, or if you lose a couple in a row, then it just snowballs out of control.
And like personal opinion, I would much rather see a team just trying to fight their way to victory, trying to claw back in than just the slow bleed, man. It sucks. It just sucks watching teams just not do anything.
However, if there is a series that is going to be that slow bleed, it's going to be those two teams, two of the most macro teams in the OPL. As Legacy take on the Direwolves, they want to play through priority. Legacy want to play through lane priority of Mimic as well as Claire. Direwolves kind of bundle all that up, give it to Shern, and hope that he can do good things through the jungle.
And that's the big thing that you do have to highlight. Sybil kind of tries to give it to his lanes, whereas the lanes on Direwolves give it to Shern. They play a lot of Talia in the mid lane, and you see a lot of Roams actually at a triple. He's been top lane at like level 2 last week. So, yeah, they kind of give all of their priority to Schoenfire, and he tries to get work done.
And Triple's been in the OPL for a long time now, but I feel like this is kind of his make or break season. He was on Avant. He was kind of their sole shining light for the last couple of years. Coming over to the Direwolves, people were like, he's the best mid laner, and people were like, he's overrated. And I think that right now he's fallen towards actually making a case to maybe be the best mid laner in the OPL.
I feel like definitely, he definitely hasn't struggled. But I feel like he hasn't really been like a shining light. He's had some really good performances, specifically on Talia. Like he's had
against
some
Order, he whooped our backside.
Yeah, he's been just like walling people in. You mentioned last game in the series, actually. He is some of the most creative uses of the Weaver's Wall. So he's had like very impressive plays, but until they've played everyone, it's hard to say he is the best.
Yeah, it certainly is. Looking forward to seeing how he takes on Ryoma. However, to get this series underway, let's throw it over to Juves and Laura for their thoughts.
Thank you very much, guys. Yes, I am back here with Juves, who will be answering your questions very shortly. So if you have any last-minute questions to send over, make sure you send them to us on Facebook or Twitter using the hashtag #LikeNoOther, and you could win yourself a mystery skin. But Juves, we're into our second series of the day, Legacy versus the Direwolves. Over the past few weeks, we've seen that Legacy have been struggling to close out games, and they've been having issues around Baron. On the other side, the Direwolves have been looking very clean and controlled in all of their games. I'd love to get your thoughts on this since you went up against the Direwolves last week.
Yes, it was a bit of a beating for us. No, well, one thing I find interesting about this matchup is like, yes, Legacy have had games where they've lost. Like they did get beaten by AV, and it was pretty disappointing for them. And I guess it's not panic stations for them. But one thing I want to touch on is most of their early games, they've had leads. Like, they've been really good early game. And Direwolves have been the same. Like, their early game's real good. But in the, like, Direwolves do like to have, like, a steady lane phase, get to, like, a point in time where they just take over the game through superior micro and team fighting. So I want to see Legacy, like, I want to see how they go against Legacy, because I feel like, yeah, like the said, they have similar play styles. It's just going to be who executes better. And can, and I know Spawn said this on the desk a few weeks ago, is like there's times where Shern is over-aggressive, but teams don't collapse and punish because they're versing Direwolves, whereas like against other teams, the jungler might get punished. So I think it's definitely down, it's like a mind game almost. It's like who's willing to take that risk, who's willing to just do that one thing that steps out of line and maybe either loses the game or wins the game. So I think it's going to be a good matchup, and stylistically, same team.
With all that in mind, who are you going to give this series to? Sounds like you're kind of edging towards Legacy.
Yeah, no, look, the way that I made it sound is I'm hoping that Legacy get a game. It's hard to predict against Direwolves. How can you say that Direwolves aren't going to win 2-0? In saying that, I actually see a way Legacy can win a game at the very least. And sometimes when Direwolves play, you don't actually have an answer. You say, I don't see how Direwolves are going to lose. So yes, I can see like a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
So you're going to give it 2-1, 2-0?
I'm going to go 2-0.
I'm going to go 2-0 to the Direwolves as well. But Legacy definitely can take a game off them. But guys, since it is our Headspace round, don't forget we have a live chat with League of Legends players over at Headspace on the 27th of February. That's a Tuesday between 7 and 8 p.m. For more information on that live chat, head on over to headspace.org.au/League of Legends. But to get the television wars underway, let's hand it back over to Jake and Bryce.
Thanks so much. And Juves right there reminded me of the guy that puts his tips in, then like 5 minutes later reopens the browser, changes it, then changes it back, then puts his tips in. And that's what you should be doing right now. Head over to opltips.com.au. Make sure that you guys have your tips in. There is some sweet, sweet prizes like Hungry Jack's vouchers, as well as AXP boosts and RP gift cards to be won.
But just don't be that guy. Don't be the Juves. That was a cop-out answer. You can't just talk up Legacy a bunch. Be like, yeah, but you know what? Direwolves 2-0. It's not good. That's a backtrack.
I mean, I don't feel like he can throw Juves out. He's 6'4". Rose stole a Baron off Levi.
Okay.
You're a washed-up shoutcaster right now. However,
okay,
getting into this game, Legacy versus Direwolves. I know that you're very interested in the bottom lanes because a very high bottom lane in what Raid and Decoy were coming in off the Korean boot camp. And then King and Cupcake, people knew they were good, but it was like, can they be great?
Yeah.
And I think that this is kind of a swing point.
And it was interesting because Direwolves bot lane, King and Cupcake, they were kind of coming off form. Like King didn't really perform domestically last season, and Cupcake on Legacy, I feel like towards the end of the split, kind of trailed off a little bit. But then Decoy and Raid, up-and-coming players. Decoy came out of OCS, had a few games in the OPL, but then Raid came from Abyss, obviously, and they had a lot of hype behind them after Korea and were real good. But I feel like overall, Decoy and Raid have underperformed a bit. I feel like the big thing for me, Kalista Shen. First of all, why are you picking Kalista and Shen? Just like, I feel like Kalista Thresh, sure, or like just don't pick Kalista if you're not going to play her on the bot lane, because that's what keeps happening. She was pick banned for so long for that reason.
Play Sivir Shen.
Yeah.
So the Sivir can stay home and wait clear, and the Shen can go help other people.
She is a special. Kalista farms so poorly by herself in like a 1v2, and then Shen, that kind of disincentivizes Decoy on the Shen to want to go topside and things like that. So it just doesn't really make a lot of sense for me.
Yeah, I saw that frustration all over Aegis' face last week. However, we are ready to get into the lineup. So it's going to be Legacy starting on the blue side. New sponsor Samsung. Very nice pickup for Carbon and the boys. It's going to be Mimic in the top lane. Sybil is their jungler. Claire, their superstar mid laner. One of my favorite players to watch at the moment. Rated Decoy are their duo lane we're talking about. Lucio So Strikes is their coach. Of course, they're going up against the boys from the Direwolves. Life's good at the top of the ladder right now.
Undefeated.
Shippies is their top laner. Shernfire is their jungler. Triple their mid laner. King, it's your boy that plays 80 carry. And Cupcake is their support. Of course, Sharp. Very thought. He's deep in thought in that photo.
Very pensive. That's your word, man.
Yeah, pensive. I do say pensive a lot, don't I?
Every week you're like, oh yeah, the boys from Direwolves and
didn't
Sharp.
say it this week, and then
Pensive.
you just throw me under the bus for it.
Well, good. You should have committed.
Cheers.
Don't backtrack. That's it. If Judes backtracks, I'll call him out. If you backtrack, I'll call you out.
Just calling everyone out.
You just called me washed up. How can you say that? What is this? We are into Champ Select, finally. Get me off the desk with this guy. Let me walk out.
Oh, a little bit of a shaky cameraman action there. What I want to talk about is Direwolves actually aren't on top of the ladder right now.
Yep.
They technically are because they've got a game in hand. If they pick up the 2-0 here versus Legacy, they will rejoin Order at the top and also have the head-to-head, so we'll be outright first. However, they need to do that to regain full control over their destiny.
Yep.
Because if that doesn't happen and Order beat them 2-1 next week, Direwolves go into this funny position where, you know, they've got equal head-to-head but are suffering on points as Order's picked up more 2-0s.
Yeah, and that's the big thing we do need to talk about. They will both finish this week if they do get the 2-0 here on 19 points. And as you mentioned, next week, week 7, will be the battle over the top. And it's kind of rough for Order. I mean, like, they haven't played or they haven't won versus a top 5 team. They played Direwolves earlier and they lost.
They just beat Avant.
No, but now they just beat Avant.
Right.
But then they get the Direwolves once again. They don't even get Chiefs. They don't get Legacy. They get straight into the Direwolves.
Right, eventually they will have to play Chiefs and Legacy in week 8 and 9 respectively. However, Legacy right now, ban away Talia, ban away Zoe, ban away Rise. That is a triple ban towards triple. Living up to his namesake, it's going to be Azir, Skarner, and the Gangplank being taken away. Nah, a champion that normally gets attention. Camille, also normally
Kalista.
banned against Mimic.
I feel like Direwolves right now do share a little bit of my opinion. They've given that Kalista open. They leave it up. King can play one. That one.
Instead, he just grabs a Doorman.
Yeah.
Decoy. Doorman. Name a more iconic duo.
Yeah, you can't.
Oh,
it's
wait.
impossible. Yeah, impossible. That's like the
That's
Ralph
impossible.
Wiggum from that's impossible. Because Decoy does pick that one up, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
I love Ralph. He's like a very good
I ate
character.
the purple berries, and they taste like burning. But it might just be the Camille taken away. We've seen the flex pick of that multiple times today and last week. So,
actually, no flex here. They're just going to throw the gauntlet. And we've seen Navi picked in response to this. Jack's a champion that used to do well into the matchup. You got things like Fiora that can challenge in the split push.
And we've seen Mimic play that one.
Certainly have.
A successful game for Legacy. Sybil might just be looking at the Zac.
Yeah, and no bans really towards Sybil. I feel like Skarner is just more a jungle pool ban at the moment. You don't want to have to buy QSSs. However, I expect Mimic to take this matchup. He's a person that does like to throw the gauntlet.
Absolutely, we'll take that one again. That's probably looked like one of his best games. It was actually so funny in the last time he played it. The team like sitting up around Baron, and he literally just on the way pings the inhib. He's like, guys, like there's no chance I'm coming to this fight. No TP.
Has priority on wave.
Hardcore split push.
He's
just
like, I could start dashing down river, or you guys could not stuff this one up, and I'll just take their whole base. He took the whole base. They won the game. It's going to be the Zac locked in.
And I feel like Laura did mention it on the couch. I was pretty critical of Legacy Barons last week. And I feel like they have to have done some work in order to even take a game against
But how do you do work? So this is my question. Because their setup looks okay until it gets to the decision of do we hit or not hit. And I don't know if you can do work on decision making.
And that's the big thing. It's not just like they don't know how to do Baron. Obviously, you can watch a game of League of Legends and be like, that's a good Baron, that's a bad Baron. Legacy aren't bad players, but there's just some sort of breakdown when it comes down to that. They just can't get on the same page. I feel like it's more of a communication thing. Because like these are all very good players. I'm sure if these 5 players turned off their microphones while playing a solo queue game, their Baron would be infinitely better than what I've seen. But there just must be some sort of mismatch when they get to that buff. And I mean, mind you, week after week, once you mess that one up a few times, there's kind of that like, oh, like is it going to happen again? It gets into the back of your head, and that's can be pretty disastrous for your confidence.
Dangerous place to be. You don't want to be scared when you're playing League of Legends. It's going to be Galio banned away from Claire. Your boy King picks up Ezreal. He single-handedly, after the Ezreal nerf and the Klepto nerf, everyone was like, Ezreal sucks. And then King was like, pew, pew, pew. And then everyone was like, Ezreal's freaking amazing.
Yeah, 100%. He's been the best performer on that pick. So absolutely popping off last weekend. He will get that one again. Direwolves haven't picked up their support yet. It'll be interesting to see if the alley gets banned away, because Cupcake has basically just blind picked that one for the last couple of weeks, almost only played that one.
It's not the best matchup into Braum, alley. You kind of take a lot of damage on the way out. Also a ban towards Claire here with the Orianna. So this is so many, that's 5, 6 bans towards, 7 bans towards mid lane. Gangplank's a mid laner, 8 bans towards mid lane. I'm stretching.
Yeah, I played Skarner mid once. So 9 bans to mid lane.
Did you?
No, it doesn't quite go.
That's reportable.
Yep.
Tarek going to be taken away. It's actually not, guys. If a person picks an unorthodox pick in their role, don't report them for it.
Let's see what they do pick up right now. 15 seconds left on the Direwolves. Do they take away the support and kind of hold the counter pick for mid? You'd have to expect that.
I think counter pick support is actually one of the most impactful roles at the moment, and they haven't got the full picture in terms of 80 carry, so there is a case to blind pick something strong.
Yeah, but in saying that, we have seen so many mid bans, but obviously they agree with you, picking away that Corki. So they hold the pick for Cupcake. Might have something spicy up his sleeve.
What is left? LeBlanc? Victor? I feel like they're trying to force a Victor matchup.
Yeah.
Because Claire will play Victor.
I mean, he will. And he honestly looked pretty good, but was kind of gifted a few early kills. Victor not really known for his early game.
Vladimir, another potential option.
Yep,
actually gets locked in. So a big 1-3-1 comp with, you know, potential for flank. They've actually got a good core. If they pick up something that has wave clear here, Sivir into Ezreal's always been a good matchup for the Sivir. They can hold the 3 and are very hard to die.
But that's the thing. I feel like they have to pick the Sivir or something with equal wave clear, which almost doesn't exist. Because Vlad, if you're holding in a 3 with a 1-3-1, normally you're in a 3v4 scenario.
Yeah.
And unless you have a Sivir able to hit the wave, oh, okay, this is fun. Let me finish my point. But Vlad has to wave clear from inside the wave, so it is so hard. But that's the Lucian.
It's back.
That's cool. I love it.
The legacy duo.
Yeah.
Cupcake obviously was the Braum player in this. Lost his plan for Echo Fox Academy over in the States. He was a Lucian player. But it's just same, different roster, same lineup.
I feel like Cupcake's throwing the gauntlet a little bit because that's not the best matchup. Ali is very hard to play, especially with like a dash forward 80 carry in a Lucian. If Braum lands a Q, Lucian can proc it if he wants, 100%. He has the owners. He can do that every single time.
Lost was actually the king of playing Lucian against Ali. When Ali went in, Lost would also go in and then kind of just like walk past the Alistar. And then Alistar spends the whole time like trying to chase you down and you just firing at the 80 carry.
Got 2 guns. That's OP.
Lucian is, by the way, the best champion to watch in competitive play, bar none.
Okay.
I'm trying
to think of who's more fun
He's
to
just
watch.
smooth.
Yeah.
A good Lucian player is just comboing. He seems to just shoot a million miles an hour, and he's just dashing everywhere. When Uzi was a big Lucian player, and Bang was a big Lucian player, and let's go back a little bit further, when Name used to play Lucian, these guys look like they were just never standing still. Obviously, big pressure on Raid now that I brought those three big names up.
And this is actually pretty interesting from Legacy, because you have to play this lane aggressively. There's no reason to pick Lucian Braum if you're just going to sit there and scale.
No, you have to kill him.
You have to. But Legacy traditionally haven't played through their bot lane. It seems like last season they did. That's kind of all they did. And then this season, you've seen most of Sybil's pressure. You see him on screen now, going towards Claire in the mid lane. They've kind of decided that Claire's going to be the man to carry them.
And I like this. The reason I like this is because I think Mimic is saying, if I get an isolated 1v1, I will win the matchup as Fiora.
Yep.
So your job is to generate pressure on the opposite side of the map and make sure Shern cannot come near my lane. I don't want to see Shern all game. I want a 1v1. And there's two ways to do that. You either pick a strong jungler and go find Shern and fight him, or you pick a strong lane that Shern must have attention towards and try and 3v3. And I think that this is actually one of the best 3v3 comps you can have.
And I mean, Juves was complimenting Legacy on their early game on the couch, so see if they can step it up this game again in a worthy opponent for the Direwolves.
I am absolutely freaking hyped for this matchup. It's Lucian Braum, Legacy's old school comp, going up against the LG Direwolves. And Laura is alongside with Legacy coach Soulstrikes.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Soulstrikes. Now, we've seen that Claire can be the star player of Legacy, but 7 bans went towards this mid lane in total. How do you think he'll go up against Triple today?
We kind of expected Triple to go Corki, and we've been preparing a lot of different picks for Brandon because we knew mid's going to be a very highly contested pick, and yeah, we're bringing out the Vladimir.
We've also got Lucian and Braum back in the bot lane. What are your thoughts on them as a duo in the meta at the moment?
I think Lucian got a recent buff, and Lucian's always been doing well against Ezreal, so the Lucian Braum kind of works at the meta right now.
I'm taking a look at the Direwolves composition. What's the biggest threat you can see for Legacy?
The biggest threat from their comp is the Ezreal Corki 2-item power spike, so we just need to play around that and scale up and bring the fight, scrappy fight with Lucian Braum.
Well, best of luck with the series, and thank you so much for talking to us.
All right, thank you.
Bring the scrappy fight with the press the attack.
Yeah.
Lucian.
One of the few AD carries that can actually reliably proc that one. Obviously, double tap on the passive, and that is where the buff lied. I think it does a bit more damage on that second shot, but it can also crit for more. I think it went from 50 to 75%.
Yeah. I think it was 60 to 80, but I'm not going to correct you on broadcast.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, but Materializer in the bot lane for Decoy.
I'm having fun at the moment. I'm sorry, Bryce.
No, it's fine, it's fine. If it's wrong, you got to do it. But he does take that Materializer on Decoy, so they want the pressure in the bot lane. They want that priority very early.
And it's going to be a spell book picked up for Mimic, so he's got himself an Ignite.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got some cookies as well. This could be a good sustain lane. You can see the push coming out of Lucian Braum.
Not to mention, a gank out of Sejuani is very broadcast. Cupcake looking for the Pulverize, but does not find it there. Raid getting a nice bit of chunk. But in terms of actually ganking the Fiora, you have a tank in the jungle with kind of delayed CC. Pre-6, all you can do is throw an ulti, but that's pretty broadcast. But not to mention, Chippy's on the Camille. His E, hookshot, is also real broadcast. So it's very easy for Mimic to be able to riposte that one if he sees it coming.
It certainly
But
is.
they're looking now.
The other thing to talk about is the fact that it gets rid of so much. Actually go in. Actually change the CC perfectly. Has to burn the flash already. They flash after him. They will be able to get the slow. Gets the stun, however, will not die. So nicely done from Mimic. Probably has to swap out the summoner spell here.
You have to. You're going to have to TP back to this lane, you'd think. Just as we were mentioning the fact that they are so broadcast on the CC, the knock-up from the Sejuani into the hookshot means he can't use that riposte. Has to use it later to get out of the stun from the passive of Sejuani, but loses his flash anyway.
But that's the best that gang can go, and they still didn't kill him.
Yep.
So you have to think that it doesn't get any better as this game progresses. He has himself some biscuit. He's a big fan of cookies.
Yeah, he is.
Mimic loves cookies. Every champion, he just takes himself some biscuits on.
He really wants to win lane. He loves that war of attrition right now. Legacy. Obviously, Shernfire showing on the top side of the map means that Sybil can happily farm the bot side. They can push in here, get some deep wards. So if Shernfire parts down here.
And talk to me about the history of these two junglers. Shern obviously coming over, taking Sybil's long-standing position.
And I feel like that's the big thing we haven't touched on. There has to be some sort of mental warfare here. And I feel like Sybil traditionally, even when he's playing well, kind of hasn't played that well into Shernfire specifically because there is that history there.
However, there was a game that Shern put him in a 200 CS hole. And Sybil still beat him. So that's a feels good man when that happens.
It's the underdog story, the rise up. 200 CS. That's gross. That's so much CS, especially for a jungler.
He just like took all his scams away.
That's a Levi score right there.
But if anyone's going to do it, it is Shern. He prioritizes farm. That's why we saw things like the Shyvana pick come out from him very early on.
You also saw that one from Prayless subbing in for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So not
actually,
even just
Prayless
Shenmue,
is probably. I was talking about Rookie of the Split. If Prayless had played more games, he would have made a very good argument.
He was on track for kind of like rookie of the split, right? But unfortunately for him, Shenfei did come back. Nice parry on the sustain there out of Chippy. So in the war of attrition, Mimic will already win because he has those biscuits. And if he can also stop a bit of that sustain, pretty big deal.
Not only that, what I was going to say is the attack speed slow that comes out of Riposte is like obnoxious when you're playing against an auto-attacking champion. Because it means things like you don't have a feel for how the cancel is going to go, which is very hard to play against. Also has auto-attack resets everywhere in her kit. Fiora is also another very smooth champion to play.
It's pretty interesting right now. Shenfire getting the Direwolves treatment from Legacy. They've put some deep wards after that gank earlier. You obviously showed on the map, and both their side lanes have priority. So they've just walked in, kind of deep warded his Gromp and his Golems time after time. So they kind of know exactly where he is on which side of the map at least. He will probably show on that ward near the Raptors very soon, and he will.
King's a hoarder. He just kept all these items that he's got so far.
He doesn't need to use the red pot until he gets into a fight, so absolutely we'll hold on to that one.
See, they've spotted Shern out on the ramp as another dash forward from Raid. Good damage coming out. That was a press the attack proc.
And the big thing from press the attack is how it got changed on 8.4. Obviously, we're not there yet, but the big thing in bot lane and why it's so strong is because it not just amplifies Lucian's damage, the guy that actually takes the rune, it also amplifies everyone else's. So that's the big thing. Kind of for top laners on 8.4, they're like, okay, we can put more power in the rune because in a 1v1 it's more effective, but that would just imbalance it for the 2v2. So in this matchup here, if they can reliably proc that one, Braum's damage is nothing to scoff at already. The passive, the Q, the ulti, he has Ignite as well. And then if you amplify that further, if they ever get down onto King, you have to think he's absolutely going to pop.
And I feel like right now, even with a Sheen pickup, that mid lane is absolutely fine as Mimic actually misses and will get ultied. However, Chippies doesn't commit for the play, and Biscuit is still available.
Yeah, once again, Mimic does not die, gets incredibly low, but really nice play by Chippies, baits him out, mental warfare, holds himself on the wall for just long enough. Mimic obviously has to burn that riposte. Landed the CC anyway into a nice trade. Oh, he's almost full HP.
Yep.
That's a biscuit for you.
Just channeling through there. You can see there is a vital available. Chippies is trying to hug the wall because he doesn't want to give Mimic a good ultimate right now.
Yep. We'll see very low mana. Would struggle to actually fight back if he ever got caught in that situation. But with Shenfire in his back pocket around the golems, knows he can get a bit of a reset off if he just going to walk back to the lane. Sybil on the other side of the map right now is level 6, so we haven't seen anything from him so far, just kind of farming up, and that's what we see for the most part. With Zax, we saw Spooks earlier in the day get a level 3 gank off, but that is pretty rare to see.
Yep, certainly is. I mean, his Elastic Slingshot shot just sucks at that stage of the game.
So short.
Yeah.
It's not much of a slingshot. It's like a sling small shot. I don't know. I had nothing left.
This is funny. But 600 gold advantage right now, and CS advantages in every lane, including the jungle for Legacy. So we said they've got a good early game. This is definitely not the area of the game you criticize for Legacy. It's a little bit more of their late game decision making. And they're showing that they are good enough to go toe-to-toe with the Direwolves.
Right now, level 6s are going to be hitting the bot lane fairly soon. We see King has hit that mark, obviously catching that wave by himself, because Cupcake's got Moby's in his Roman mid. And you're pointing at the screen, Jake. What is it?
I am an Essence Reaver, Lucian. You are a Blade of the Ruin King, Lucian. This is the first game we've seen him in the OPL, and it has been shown that Essence Reaver is the correct build. Get this weird Blade of the Ruin King static shift stuff out of my game.
You want to know the secret?
What?
Because I'm a bad Eddie carry and I need lifesteal, otherwise I just get poked out of lane. But obviously Essence Reaver gives access to more damage overall, but less sustain.
Just the fact that you get mana back. I don't know. I'm the
gashing.
opposite. I go all the time on Lucian, so I need an Essence
slinger.
Reaver. Yeah, I'm a big W Lucian, actually.
And when you talked about, you were like prepping this Lucian pick, like, oh, we see Name play. When you see Uzi play, and that's the thing, all they do is just chain those dashes together. If they can use that passive to perfect effect, he just looks like he's zooming around everywhere. And obviously the extra cooldown from the Essence Reaver allows you to do that.
Yep. Potentially could see even more come out. I mean, I really liked Lucian when Youmu's gave attack speed. That was a cool Lucian build. you go Youmu's into, you know, a little bit more of an item as we see Triple going aggressive mid lane now that he's got the package. However, Jungler's going to meet here, and Sybil is up in farm. 3 camps.
And I think actually, as we see, the package will be burnt out from Triple, has that extra safety, so just gets himself out of there. But I think this is the first game in the OPL we've seen any team actually just kind of winning every lane against the Direwolves. This is the first time we've seen that, not to mention the jungle as well. So that's like 4 from 4 right now. Legacy are ahead.
And they've done it at the Direwolves game because they're not doing it by fighting them and things like that. They're just doing it by farming up. That's how the Direwolves play League of Legends.
But Sybil right now might be
looking for
to
the
get
first
behind.
thing. Gank goes in. Will get the Arcane Shift out. Will slap him back. Tags him up as well. However, massive headbutt pole out of Cupcake. Saves that play.
And it wasn't even the amount of people he knocked up there. It was the timing. It meant that Brom couldn't use the ulti to lock down King after that flash. So they do get a summoner for almost nothing. But Raid sitting on very low mana right now. We'll just be able to push that wave in. Probably look for a recall. And then a return gank with Sybil. You have to think they will be prioritizing that bot lane.
Yeah, you can see Shern right now on the opposite side of the map starts himself up a Rift Herald. Was spotted by a ward. So Sybil returns a favor with an Earth Drake. Earth Drake obviously going to be better as the game progresses, whereas the Rift Herald right now is probably good for a free turret.
Yeah, but can they get it? That's the big thing. They need to open up the window. It's kind of actually a lot more useful against Vlad as a mid laner than things like Azir, because he has to commit to the wave, and if you bring a few members over... Oh, decoy, come on, man.
It was timing.
He was. He was. That hurts. Especially since we were just talking about they will be prioritizing the bot lane, so he just blows his flash immediately. Cupcake on the Spellbook alley as well, has TP, so you kind of think that dissuades Legacy from going top. Not to mention it's a Fiora versus Camille.
It wasn't in vision, however. So they don't know that he flashed.
Yep.
So
that is true.
They can kind of play the mind game, because you don't just think, oh yeah, he flashed at Dragon Pit.
Yeah, you hope not.
Because what kind of happened there, and I mean, maybe you're better at explaining this, but when you're fighting in lane, you are responsible for timers still, but you don't really take them straight away, so you wait for the lull. Is that right?
Yeah, what tends to happen is like if your mid laner fights and then blows a flash, he'll like put it in chat, he'll just type flash, and then you go back, and on a recall, or when you have a lull, as you mentioned, walking back to lane from the Dragon, you kind of collate them all together so you can copy-paste them for the team. Obviously, timing flashes is just so incredibly important, especially in competitive play. So, unfortunately for him, who would he have been typing with D?
No, so is
he... 80 carry, potentially. Because he's been like 80 carry flash at 13 minutes or whatever. But just obviously hit the enter too early, hit that D, and then flash goes off. Oh no, it's the F. He's an F flash player.
That's what I mean. I reckon he was just typing
He's just typing flash, yeah.
So, yeah, and that's honestly the real reason you put flash on D, by the way. Because if you type it too early, then it just pings up with an ignite. And you're like, I didn't hit
You can't
enter.
just ignite nothing.
Yeah.
But the classic Legacy strategy with this Braum Lucian is to get the priority in the bot lane, walk it up to mid lane, and then walk it all up to top lane. That was the Soul Strike strategy a few years ago, but looked like they were floating mid there, but they do just back away. Sybil just linking up with his support and decoy, getting some nice vision down in the river, but it will be matched right now by the Direwolves bot lane.
Credit to Chippies, he has actually started winning out in this top side of the map. There's going to be a wave collected right now. However, see 4 members of the Direwolves strong around Claire's lane. And he's got himself a proto belt as well as boots too already. He is not being bullied in this lane at all.
But the big thing is that Chippies had to expend the TP to get back to lane, and Mimic still has that ignite.
He swapped back.
Yeah, so that's the thing. He doesn't even need TP to stay even in this lane. And the big thing there, you're like, okay, they should have TP disadvantage, but because Chippies had to go back, it means that despite Mimic not being able to influence the bot play, neither can the Camille.
Yeah, and
so Sybil
you do not want Fiora down in your bot play anyway. She should do what Swiffer did and stay home.
If Fiora can just sit in the side lane and hold the Camille there, that is infinitely better. Direwolves playing this one pretty respectfully. They don't know Sybil's in the bush, but they're respecting the fact that he can be. He gets on
goes
him.
over the back, able to hit the rubber hands, gets flung back, however, will be pulled in. Ultimate is popped there, will be able to kidnap him, take him back as well, and as you mentioned, they got Cupcake, the 2-for-1 special. Sybil's so tanky, going to take this one up. The cow will go golden, however,
nice
potentially going to fall down. Raid goes forward, able to pick that one up. Does he die to the turret? Has heal, as you mentioned. 2 kills for Raid. Rift Herald pop mid lane right now.
Such a nice play. Claire actually gets the wave as well, so this will hit. Only 2 creeps around. They're not actually going to get the turret we were talking about. That's the opportunity. Rift Herald can get you a turret if you make a good play, but Shernfire pulls that one. They're not even going to get the turret, and 2 kills over to the bot lane, Lucian Braum.
And we said that Raid and Decoy today need to be on point. They're going against the best performing bottom lane in the OPL. 2 kills, first turret gold. That is going to be a massive advantage for them.
I'm so excited. That's real cool. Lucian could do 2 things in this game. He could get ahead and he can pop off.
Or he
can kind of just like lose slowly and just be irrelevant for the rest of the game. But Raid already set himself up for success right now. Essence Reaver, Boots 2, approaching his next item already.
Well, it's funny you say Raid set him up for success, because I would argue Sybil has been instrumental in both of the ganks. In the matchup where we said, you know, Shern's in his head, he's been able to bully Sybil around since he returned to the OPL. I would say that Sybil has comprehensively out-jungled Shern at the start of this game.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely here as we go back to standard lanes for the most part. No Dragon is available up in the next 2 minutes here, but Shernfire down in the bot lane. They might be looking for something, but they are at a lot of vision. Not in the bush, but as soon as they walk out, they know.
They've got package on Corki as well. They have no teleport. Double TP available. Legacy just have to try and get the heck out of dodge. Will be able to get the stun up. However, perfectly changed CC means that they grab themselves the kill, and the Direwolves hit back.
No wave near the turret, so they do get the kill, but can they take it down? Claire kind of floating around with the jungler. They're looking to defend this one. They don't want to give it up, and Direwolves are actually going to respect it. They're going to back away, but I feel like on the top side of the map, Mimic is finally bullying around Chippies a little bit. That turret, a little bit of damage to it.
Yeah, it's starting to take some from the creep wave.
Yep.
Mimic, whenever he gets a vital proc, so do you actually know how vital procs spawn?
How they spawn?
Yeah.
No.
So when you hit them, they go, so they're
on the right
side
now?
and top, or left side and bottom.
Okay.
So you're guaranteed to spawn on like the opposite sides.
Yep.
So Mimic actually is doing a great job as soon as it's about to respawn, positioning himself on that angle to be able to always proc the vital underneath turret, and then it gives you that movement speed to dash back out.
Because that was the change, right?
Yeah.
When Fiora was in meta and she was ridiculously OP, the vitals were too easy to get. And if you just got straight up RNG'd a few times, it could just cost you the lane.
You could get 2 forward vitals in a lane.
At like level 1 or 2, and then you just insta-lose, and there's really no counterplay.
It sucks.
So it makes a lot of sense to spawn on the opposite side. But obviously, Direwolves expend a lot of their resources to go bot. They don't get the turret. They do just get the kill. The Dragon up in 20 seconds.
However, they did
Sybil looking for the control.
Did get mid lane turret.
Yep.
So that's a big turret to break at this stage of the game, especially into a 1-3-1 comp.
Right now, a lot of pings going onto the bot side. 10 seconds away from Dragon. Sybil and Shernfire both looking at the mid lane. They know Shern's there, or when he will get spotted out by the scrying.
Yeah, see whether he just gets kidnapped straight away. We'll bang him against the ward. Gets in front of him, looks for it, burns the flash out of Shern. Now damage onto Claire is good.
And honestly, a value flash out of Shernfire. Gets 2 ultis for that one. But
did he?
Oh,
Not
no,
one.
sorry. I thought their Braum ulti came through. Huh?
No, just
Apparently
one.
not.
You can see Mimic still just sitting under the turret top lane. Chippies has got the teleport, but isn't in a position to use it. Mimic will now back away. You would have to think that he's doing that to change back to the teleport.
Yeah, no, just playing respectfully. Shernfire on the top side of the map forces Claire out. They know where he is, but as you mentioned, no TP. So it's going to be rough for Legacy to make a bot side play, whilst Mimic does have that ignite. See how long he does actually hold on to it right now. But the bottom lane has base for both teams. They're matching here. Adile was deploying to the top side. Obviously, Cupcake still has that TP, no combat summoner, so they're not really interested in fighting the 2.
Chippy's in a little bit of trouble here. Actually surprised the ultimate didn't come out of Mimic, because he was able to get that vital as well as the slow. However, Chippy just dashes away to a wall and gets himself to safety. Mimic wants that turret.
Bot lane going mid. Looking like it will be matched. Raid actually going topside for the most part there. They don't actually commit onto Claire. Obviously, there's no turret there, so any pressure.
Oh, Claire, very low. King looking to chain that. Not going to happen.
They're just sweeping out the river. Obviously, Shernfire actually
goes over the wall. They're looking to collapse onto Sybil. He doesn't have an ultimate either. He's going to get stunned up. CC chain will be there. Do they have a teleport? They don't, so they can't even save his life with that. Sybil falls down, and Direwolves now back within 300 gold.
And that might just be the pick that stabilizes the game for them. Cupcake has his flash available, looking for Claire.
They're actually sprinting across the map.
Oh,
Claire
ulti.
burns the ulti early. Will be able to get a heal back. No, he can't get into pool. Didn't flash either. Big mistake out of Legacy's mid laner, and Direwolves are now looking to put the screws in.
And the decisive flash out of Cupcake actually locks down Claire before he can burn that pool, so the heal from the ulti does not come through. Shernfire looking to take away the red buff as well, but Mimic has something to say for it.
We'll be able to get a couple of auto attacks in here. We'll be looking to bully Shern around, however, just uses a smite.
And can Legacy actually get anything on the top side? The bot lane from Direwolves is rotating up. TP still available for Cupcake. Chippies unavailable to know. They do just back away. They know they're coming.
Yep. Good read coming out, but that play was nearly a 2,000 gold swing. Direwolf now going to be out about 1,000 gold with the access to the minion wave. They push one in very deep mid as well. But all summoner spells up and available right now, apart from Mimic's flash on the side of Legacy Esports. Direwolves have everything apart from Cupcake and Churns.
But I feel like this is traditionally what has been happening to Legacy Esports. Laning phase, they're fine. They do get themselves some leads. And we're questioning, can they do it against a team like the Direwolves? And apparently, yes, they can. Their laning is fine, but once they get to mid-game, once they open the map up, Direwolves just...
That's so strange to me, because we compliment Soul Strikes as a very good coach, which he is. I'm a Soul Strikes fan. But we wouldn't necessarily look down this list and say they have 3 winning lanes. You wouldn't say Raid and Decoy are going to be able to, you know, double kill King and Cupcake. But that's what we saw. It's just such a strange thing that you would think they would be the mid to late game team, not the early game team, in my opinion.
They're looking for a topside play. Want to just break that turret. Mimic did some serious work on that one earlier. They send the bot lane up to kill that one. They're actually on vision right now. Double combo out of Cupcake. Locks down both.
You can see Sybil in trouble again. Will just fall down. Claire also has to go golden. They're trying to fight this one. Claire stays alive for a very long time. On the back end, flash over the wall means that Triple will fall down. Claire somehow has still survived. However, Shern picks that up. It's a 2-for-1 trade. Turret goes down in Legacy's favor.
And a fairly greedy player to Legacy. They don't deny the vision. King with the slows into Decoy. Looking for the extra kill, but Chippies and Shern are flanking.
Chippies is already rotated around. This is going to be a 4v2 turret dive. Mimic has to stay. Massive headbutt pulve again out of Cupcake. 0-1 and 7. Direwolf support is on fire, and this is a Direwolves Baron if I've ever seen one.
And Mimic was actually basing. He wanted to switch to that TP, get into the play, but no, he just sticks to it. The rest of his team is dead, and that will be the Baron. Almost on spawn, going over to the Direwolves uncontested.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing they can do. 4,000 health. Sybil's not going to be there in time. Shern is alive and has the smite available. And Direwolves, they were behind, will now take themselves a 2,000 gold lead as well as the Baron. And Sybil went in and he's going to die again.
Desperate play out of Jungler for Legacy. No, taking away the Baron. Yeah, 100%.
That's a tilt play.
Yep.
It's a 20-minute Baron. You're not going to lose the game over it. However, if you just keep feeding kills into carries, you might just do it.
And we see this Cupcake sitting here for so long. They're just standing on a ward. Chain CC locks down both Claire and Sybil. And they actually try and fight this one. The bottom lane from Legacy rotates over. They think Raid might just be strong enough, but numbers disadvantage. He does kill off Triple, but he has to burn his TP. Oh, sorry, his flash over the wall, but it means Claire goes down. They end up chasing them out, but just going to be the Baron.
Yeah, exactly right. Fleet footwork, Sejuani's starting to do some work in these fights. You can see they go for the dive, they execute well.
Yep, double combo onto the bot lane. Once again, I feel like Cupcake hasn't landed a single one this game. Like on a single person. They've all been multiple 2, 3-man. We saw him try his best to turn around those ganks early game. Unfortunately for them, they still went down, but honestly, been performing well on the alley.
And Direwolves have a 2,000 gold lead whilst being 2 turrets down. So with this Baron buff, you expect them to be able to take the outer ring at the minimum.
Yep.
So that is going to be more like a 5,000 gold lead, nearly.
Yep, there goes
by the
one.
time they're finished.
Chippies picks that one up in the bot lane solo right now. Triple tracking top side. So this is what Direwolves do fairly well compared to other teams with Baron in the OPL. They play it very respectfully whilst they push in the side lanes. Chippies pushes that in, he floats toward his mid lane. You're just going to wait for Triple to push in that top side, whether they rotate up and look for a dive, or whether they stick around in the mid lane and just let him take that one solo. It looks like they do opt in for the rotation. King going over the wall up to that turret.
Yeah, it's not only that. Chippies coming to that fight meant that a lane that Mimic was winning quite hard is now like dead even, to be honest. Trinity Force
versus the Hydra, basically.
Versus the Ravenous, and they're going to go for the same items, you would assume, in the long run, although maybe Chippies goes towards Titanic as opposed to Ravenous.
Potentially, it's Baron. Still on Direwolves right now. Do they pull the trigger on a play, or do they just let Chippies push in the side lane right now?
I wonder if he actually wins the 1v1. I want to see it. He goes over the wall. Mimic plays respectfully, obviously. Doesn't go for that fight.
Just backing away. But Direwolves comp, honestly right now, Israel Corky, not the biggest dive composition, but 3,000 gold ahead, actually.
Very good poking. You see Claire gets comboed. That's not available for the next couple of seconds, so they will look for this one. Get the knock up onto Triple, be able to slap him back. However, miscommunication because no one else is going. Raid now able to engage onto Shernfire. Mimic is here. Shern falling very low. Nice ultimate. They chain that one, and Mimic just gets destroyed. Chippy's now into the back line. Claire falls down. And what looked like a great engage turns into an absolute disaster. Triple going forward. Chippy's able to chain that flash, picks up the 3rd kill, and this might actually be game. It's going to be such long death timers, and Direwolves are streaming into the base.
Yeah, do they actually pull the trigger on that one? Not much wave clear, only the Lucian. Can Sybil keep his 80 carry alive? Only 24 minutes into the game, they might be looking for the end.
Yeah, it certainly looks to be the case. Triple Sheen items, double Trinity Force. You see how quickly they do this. Turret number 1 going to fall down. Sybil looking for some damage, but can't get it done. Chippy's into the back line again. Sybil trying to repel the team. Still 10 seconds on Claire, and they pick up both of them. This will be it. In decisive fashion, it takes one Baron, and Dire will say, nah, we are still the best team in the OPL. Give us that game 1.
Okay, going in once again, and they do actually hit the Nexus there, and that's the 1-0 going to the Direwolves. You mentioned a decisive play. You said with the Baron Sybil, why are you contesting? That one's not going to end the game, but Direwolves disagree. They just stream it down mid lane. Sybil goes in for the engage. They turn it around. That Sedge ulti onto Mimic literally won them the game. He was just completely useless in that fight, dashing in. Could not riposte. Schönfire hits him in the face, goes down immediately. They just charge it down mid.
And another game where Legacy, honestly, that's bad macro plays. They give away a couple of kills when they're funneling in 1 by 1.
Yep.
And then they're against a Baron team that is online. You even heard Soulstrike say, we don't want to fight them at 2 items. We want to fight them at 6 items. But they take a fight at 2 items, and it costs them big. That Baron shouldn't have cost them the game, but it did because Legacy decided to fight.
And I feel like it's because of their lack of wave clear. They feel like they really had no other options. They have a Lucian instead of the Sivir we were talking about in Champs. Like, obviously, he got it ahead early, but then Vladimir can't do anything really against Baron up creeps, and I feel like they should have just been backing away from those turrets. Sure, they have Baron. That's unfortunate, but they're going to take these turrets down eventually. So kind of tentatively contest, but don't commit to an all-in.
But they committed to it. And I mean, that's another game where Mimic hasn't necessarily had the biggest impact, to be honest. I mean, able to have a good laning phase, but as soon as the lanes dissolve, I mean, Chippy's was much more impactful on that Camille.
Yeah, there was just that one play on the top side. Obviously, he held the Ignite for basically the entire game. Obviously, switched once to the TP, but then as soon as that came back up, switched it back to the Ignite. So he really didn't want to be involved, but that was kind of just at the detriment to the 4.
Yeah, it certainly was, because Chippy's was able to rotate over, was instrumental in that turret dive that led to the Baron play. You think in a 3v2, maybe that's not possible. Maybe it is, because Cupcake's a really good Alistar player, and he just keeps hitting these massive combos, but I mean, potentially Direwolves don't go for it.
That's the thing. Is he the best Alistar player? We have Destiny, who I would name before the season started. Destiny would be like the best ally.
Rogue's played a couple of games on it.
Rogue, Destiny, and now Cupcake. I feel like all putting their hat in the ring.
None of them compare to Ejim, Ali God. However, let's hear from Laura and Juves about that game.
Thank you very much, guys. Direwolves going from 0 to 100 to take that game off Legacy. Juves, I want to start by talking about a little remark you made at the beginning of the game about Schönfire and his ganking.
Yeah, it kind of triggers me, actually. Schönfire is the only jungler that I've seen in the last 2 weeks that goes from one buff to the other buff to a gank on the lane, the top lane, for example, and it gets either a kill or a summoner. And the hard part about saying this is it happened to us. We got double killed top lane on a buff to buff clear, and in this game, Mimic had to burn his flash just from a solo queue gank. It's kind of like when you go to school, you learn the alphabet, right? When you first start school, it's like A, B, C, D. In League of Legends, the alphabet is jungler goes from blue to red to solo queue gank top, and that's exactly what's happening, and it's like paying off for him.
I want to touch on this top lane, because on paper Fiora beats Camille, but Chippies was able to get kills on Camille by roaming around. But Juve, you were not happy with Mimic taking Ignite on Fiora with the spellbook.
Yeah, so first things first, like you can actually take Klepto on Fiora and not get punished. So a lot of Fioras in solo queue take Klepto. But if you want to run the spellbook, that's completely fine. You can start Ignite in the top lane and maybe you can pick up a kill. The problem was, it was like Chippies was playing the lane really well, and it didn't look like at any point that Mimic was ever going to kill him with the Ignite. So I think Mimic himself has to like realize in that situation, I'm not going to get the kill. Obviously, Fiora having a TP, like you don't really want Fiora to TP into a team fight, but you need the team you're versing to think about the TP. Like you don't want to come to the fight, but if you have to, then the team has to be mindful that you can get there. And I think what Chippies and Direwolves in particular did really well. Shout out to Cupcake because he did have a good game, but I think Chippies was instrumental in that win because he knew he was never going to win that lane. There was at no point Chippies was going to solo kill him in that lane. So Chippy's just said, okay, once I clear this wave, I'm just going to roam. I'm literally just going to roam because he's got Ignite. I'm not going to kill him. And I think Chippy's picked up like 3 or 4 kills off the back of him just roaming. And Mimic was just like AFK pushing bot lane, which like, yeah, it's fine. You're playing Fiora. But again, you need that threat. You have to have that threat. So Chippies can't just be like, I'm going to leave lane and do what I want. And yeah, that's what happened.
If you could give a bit of advice to Legacy going into game 2, what would you say to them?
I would say, like, I know that it was a 23-minute game and it was like 0 to 100 real quick, but like, it wasn't that bad. Like, the early game itself from Direwolves was fine. Like, they were even. Like, they had. Basically, it was their decision making that lost the game. It wasn't that they just got outskilled in lane, which is what happens when you verse Direwolves a lot of the time. So just reset, go back, and I think like they're in the game. Like, they can win a game, but it ultimately comes down to decision making. Like, the moment in which Chippies and Direwolves chose to roam and collapse was just decisive at the right time, perfect everything. And yeah, they have to kind of match that level at least.
We'll see if they do get to match that shortly. But first, we asked you guys to send in your questions for Juves to answer. We've picked 5 questions for him to answer right now. The first one comes in from Dash Bibi. Do you invest much time into finding new picks, or are you happy to play what everyone else is picking?
Look, me myself, I'm a bit of a meta goblin, Dash Bibi. I believe it's meant to be Dash Baby. I'm a meta goblin, so I'll often just do what other regions are doing. I don't really like to venture too far out from the box. But there are times where, like, when Camille wasn't that I guess prevalent in the jungle, I was like, yeah, I'll just give this a go, a bit of a tilt pick, and I tried it out. But yeah, to answer your question, I'd much rather let the Koreans or the Europeans figure it out, and I'll jump on the bandwagon.
Our second question comes in from Sanctum Chaz. Which teams in the OPL do you think will benefit the most with the removal of Tracker's Knife?
I actually genuinely believe our team. Let me explain. Because me, I like fighting, right? I'm going to win or lose a game. And if there's less wards, the Sin motto has always been Fido, and we're always going to skirmish. And me being able to get that red smite or blue smite and just start fights and less vision, it would be real nice. But I think it also benefits Direwolves a lot too, because Shern's very aggressive and he was always in your face. And yeah, Shern running around with a red smite and priority in lanes is not fun.
Our third question comes in from Thomas. In competitive play, is it easier to play a snowball jungler or a team-heavy orientated jungler, and which do you prefer?
I prefer playing snowball junglers. That's like my cup of tea. I like to put pressure on lanes. But I think in competitive play, what's easier is what's meta. Because like often you'll find like the meta is tanks because tanks are really strong, right? So if you're trying to play like squishy early game snowball junglers into tanks, you're going to have a rough time because you're just going to get outscaled real quick. And in the same sense, if tank junglers are really, really weak early and they don't scale that well, like when Kha'Zix, Graves, Nidalee and all that were really strong in the meta, then they just run over tanks and tanks don't even get a chance to get their items. So it's kind of like what's easier is literally what's strong and what's meta. But in terms of mechanics, obviously tanks are so much easier. Like you play Sejuani, like you have like one skill shot pretty much. And if you miss it, you're still like, hey guys, I'm still in your face. Like I am just a walking health bar, and maybe some CC here and there, but
you can still do something.
We can still do something.
Our fourth question comes in from Alexander. Hey Juves, just wondering what you would do as a jungler in a situation where the enemy jungler is super aggressive, has a strong early game, and you can barely survive farming your own jungle as he keeps invading.
I'd ping my team and tell them to help me. No, I wouldn't do that. I don't do that. No, but so if a jungler is being super aggressive usually, so let's say the jungler is invading your topside jungle, right? So they're taking your Gromp and your Wolves. If you know where the jungler started or where he's recently been, you can often just trade jungle with him. So like you can run into his bottom side jungle because if he's in your top side and he hasn't cleared his bottom side, that's all free for you and you're on the opposite side of the map from the jungler. I think the biggest problem for players in solo queue when you're versing aggressive junglers is when you get invaded, you panic. And you think like, okay, like I've got to back off and that's it and I can't do anything. But you're safe on the opposite side in their jungle. So you can literally just trade jungle with him. You don't have to give. It's just all about map awareness and I guess knowing where the enemy jungler is. So yeah, the short answer is to survive him and keep farming is go farm his jungle. Because he's looking for you in your jungle. Farm his back out and then you're even with him.
Our final question comes from a pale guy. In light of the recent partnership of the OPL with Headspace, how do you mentally prepare for before each game?
I've always been, even when I was playing soccer, I was like a visualization guy. So I find that helps me a lot. Like I'll just often sit there or like just on wherever I'm doing like before the game, and I'll think about like what a good game looks like for me, like what I'm doing, like actually like visualize what it feels like as well, because you can like kind of remember the feeling of like when you're playing really well, like what it feels like. And I try not to think about like who I'm versing, because to me that doesn't matter. Nameplates are off. Like I don't care who I'm versing. I want to play the way that I'm gonna play, regardless of who I'm versing. So yeah, for me, visualization and just focusing on myself, because a lot of people psych themselves out of games. Like when especially if you go into solo queue and you're versing like a good player, a lot of people might panic and they'll be like, this guy might be better than me, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That really affects your performance. Who cares? We're all humans. We all have the same mouse, the same button, the same champions. If you know what the champion does, it can only do that. It can't do anything else because someone's playing it. So I think, yeah, just focus on yourself and visualize. I can't even say that word, man.
Visualize?
Yeah, you say it for me. You say it a lot better than I do. English was not my strong subject, as you can tell.
Well, thank you for your advice, Jubes, and thank you so much for everyone for submitting your questions, and congratulations to those that got a mystery skin out of it. We're going to head to a short break, but when we get back, we're going to have Game 2 between Legacy and the Direwolves.
We'll be able to kidnap him, take him back as well. And as you mentioned, they got Cupcake, the 2-for-1 special. Sybil's so tanky, going to take this one up. The cow will go golden, however,
nice
potentially going to fall down. Raid goes forward, able to pick that one up. Legacy just have to try and get the heck out of dodge. Will be able to get the stun up, however, perfectly changed CC means that they grab themselves the kill. Burns the ulti early, will be able to get a heal back. No, he can't get into pool. Didn't flash either. Big mistake out of Legacy's mid lane. They're trying to fight this one. Claire stays alive for a very long time. On the back end, flash over the wall means that Triple will fall down. Claire somehow has still survived. This is going to be a 4v2 turret dive. Mimic has to stay. Massive headbutt pulve again out of Cupcake. 0-1-7. Direwolf support is on fire. Nice ultimate. They chain that one, and Mimic just gets destroyed. Chippy's now into the back line. Claire falls down. And what looked like a great engage turns into an absolute disaster. Triple going forward. Chippy's able to chain that flash. Picks up the third kill. This will be it. In decisive fashion, it takes one Baron. And Dire will say, nah, we are still the best team in the OPL. Give us that game one.